Let's look a little bit at the way in which prosperity and containment are related to each other.
Well, the home was really the centerpiece of post-World War II American life. It's a time when people are moving into new suburban areas, especially white families, working class and middle class white families are moving out of the cities into more spacious single-family dwellings. There had been a tremendous housing shortage at the end of World War II, and the federal government pours a lot of money into subsidizing federal loans going into suburban developments. And these were largely, not completely, but almost completely segregated by race. And in most of these developments, only white families could move in. But among those white families were working class families who had previously been crowded into smaller, often ethnically segregated urban neighborhoods, and they now had a chance to spread out into these suburban neighborhoods and single-family homes, and the home itself came to represent the American way of life. This was the ideal that was promoted all around the world as the American good life, the American dream. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't available to everyone, for sure, but it became a reality for many white families after World War II.
But it has actually often astonished me the way in which the government's mortgage program for GIs links to enhancing the provider role of men. Men can now buy houses because those mortgages were available to GIs or to people who'd served in the war one way or the other. And then what that does is to create a home into which women can pour their energies as decorators, as child carers, as maintainers of the status of the male who purchased the home in the first place. It feels like a circle that's unbroken.
Absolutely, and it does a lot of things. It reinforces gender roles, as you pointed out, and it also reinforces other social hierarchies. For one thing, a GI veteran with a honorable discharge or who had served during the war and then was finished could purchase a suburban home with a federal mortgage for $1 down. Mm. But not everyone who served in the war could get those mortgages.
Right.
Women couldn't. Black people could. But then through a policy known as redlining, they were only allowed to use those mortgages in specifically designated areas for people who were not white. And so they were actually ruled out not economically because many of those black families could afford those homes, but they were ruled out because those communities were designated only for white people. And I think this gets lost in the story of the civil rights movement often because so much of the really dramatic civil rights activism took place in the South. Mm. But in the North, there's just as much residential segregation and just as much racism, of course, but it's not quite manifest in separate bathrooms and drinking fountains the way it was in the South.
But it is manifest in these real estate
Absolutely.
Divisions. And what's fascinating about that is that once again we reinforce white male providerhood, and we don't quite destroy, but we undermine the possibilities of black male providerhood, because the inability to provide a home for so many people, of course, then participates in the way in which the black family shapes itself somewhat differently from white families.
Right, exactly.
Pushing women or keeping women in the wage labor force in a way that white women didn't have to do, or at least they had some choice in the matter.